Over the last decade or so, I've watched snowboarding games go from something that was coming out just about every other month to a genre of sports game that basically doesn't exist anymore. Nobody even really tries, and the last major attempt by any developer to make anything related to the sport, Steep, went almost entirely unnoticed. Why did the genre die in the first place, though? Personally, I think the reason the extreme sports genre eventually fell under was because they were all basically the same game, slowly iterating on an annual release schedule. Now, I will grant you that there are games that do this successfully, at least in a financial sense, games like NBA 2K and Madden, but there's a much smaller audience for extreme sports games to start with. And then, when you narrow it down to an even more specific segment of that, like snowboarding, you shrink the audience even further. So, any repetition between titles or unnecessary annualization would kill the market. And it did. But every once in a while, you would still get something truly unique and interesting, much like you used to get games like NFL 2K5 in the football space. Amped 3 is absolutely one of those intriguing games, and I don't really mean that mechanically. When it comes to the actual snowboarding part of Amped 3, it's pretty standard, maybe even a bit under standard, but it more than makes up for it with everything that it has used to wrap up its entire package. For starters, Amped 3 is oozing with style, and style that actually works. There are a ton of games out there that try too hard to be cool and come across like they're that cool parent who wants to get in the good graces of all their kids' friends. They know all the right things to say, but they have no idea about context or execution. But Amped 3 actually succeeds, at the very least, at being funny. They aren't really trying super hard to be cool or edgy or fit in with the hip kids. They're just trying to make a fun little narrative. But that's not even the most interesting part. The most interesting part are the game's cutscenes, which have this awesome surrealist style that matches the tone of the game perfectly. And they use different kinds of cutscenes. Maybe it'll be stop motion, maybe sometimes it'll be a weird anime type thing, sometimes it'll be an 8-bit style thing. They use whatever matches the character or activity you're going to do best. Each character and mission type has their own specific style, and it all comes together to make something that is really impressive from both a tone and aesthetic perspective. The problem is that at its very heart, Amped 3 is an open world game in the style of a lot of other open world games. And while the formula was still somewhat new at the time, it has become so overdone at this point that it has actually become the worst part of this game over the years. Between every mission that progresses the story and gives you more of those awesome cinematics, you have to go out into the world and do one of a handful of activities in order to get points so that you can do the next story mission. It's tedious as hell, and it does a lot to mess with the quirky nature of the game and its seemingly fast-paced nature. Most of the time, it just kind of feels like unnecessary padding. However, in Amped 3, the style always carried me through. The work that went into this game's absurd cutscenes is honestly somewhat stunning, and it allows the game to transcend its somewhat bland core mechanics and tiring open world with ease. And it makes this game absolutely still worth checking out today, even if you choose to just watch the cutscenes on YouTube. Every Monday, I look at a game that was released at least 10 years ago, what I would consider to be retro, and I see if it's held up today, if it's still worth playing now. If you like that idea, be sure to subscribe so you can see the latest videos. If you like this video in particular, be sure to hit that like button, and thanks for watching.